Thanks, friend. You already got mine.
This is a quick test of the Zoom audio system to confirm if I could get someone on the Zoom call to audibly speak. Thank you.
For doing that.
Taylor, if I can get another audible confirmation, please.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. IMS team, our audio coming through from Zoom is very quiet. Taylor, can you try again, please?
Yep, testing.
Philip, if we can get you over here to check the setup, please. We're not getting Taylor audibly through the room. Taylor, can we try again?
Yep, testing again.
Use it to change the tire on my car.
Okay, Taylor, we still are unable to hear you. Thank you.
Yes.
1 minute.
Only the gummy.
Taylor, could you please attempt audio again, please?
Yep, testing 1, 2, 3.
Taylor, one more time.
Okay. Welcome,
Testing, 1, 2,
welcome
3.
everybody to tonight's formal meeting. We're happy to have you here, whether you are joining us in person, virtually, or watching our live feeds or replays. We hope you continue to join us, whichever manner you feel the most comfortable. I know our staff is working through some technical difficulties, and they work very hard all the time to make those things happen. So thank you for participating. We're going to move on to item A1, the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand up.
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So moving on to A2. Before we move on through the agenda, I want to remind everyone about the rules of decorum. Those rules are designated to ensure everyone is treated with civility and feels safe to participate and attend, regardless their viewpoint or position. The following rules help us maintain a safe and welcoming public comment process. The public comment period is for members of the public to speak to us. To keep our reactions from affecting your ability to freely share your opinion, council members refrain from engaging in debate or answering questions. The staff is available to answer questions and share information with council members. Please avoid threatening and discriminating language. Please do not insult others based on religion, ethnicity, race, color, gender, sexual orientation, or physical ability. Whether you agree or disagree with someone's comment, please refrain from clapping, cheering, shouting, booing, obstructing or discouraging others from commenting. The full meeting rules are listed at the door, and our staff will post those right now and the link on Zoom. That brings us now to item A3. We need a motion to approve the minutes for January 9, January 16th, and December 12th.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Wharton and a second by Councilmember Dugan. Is there any discussion on this motion? All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes unanimously. Next council item is A4. The council will consider adopting a joint ceremonial resolution with Mayor Mendenhall recognizing February as Black History Month in Salt Lake City. I will turn the time now to Councilmember Dugan to read the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a joint resolution recognizing February 2024 as Black History Month in Salt Lake City.
Will you start over?
Whereas Black History Month is a time to celebrate the far-reaching contributions made by Black Americans throughout our country's history that have shaped our nation and our city for the better. And whereas the origin of Black History Month can be traced back to 1926 when Dr. Carter G. Woodson and the Association of the Study of Negro Life and History, which he co-founded, declared the second week of February Negro History Week. And whereas, expanding upon the work of Dr. Carter G. Woodson, Black History Month was first proposed by Black educators, students, and the Black United Students Group at Kent State University in 1969. And whereas in 1970, the first celebration of Black History Month took place at Kent State, and 6 years later, in 1976, was recognized by President Gerald Ford, urging Americans to honor the too often neglected accomplishments of Black Americans in every area of endeavor throughout our history. And whereas contributions by Black Americans have influenced all facets of society, from culture to religion, from education to business and public service, and more. And whereas it is our honor to acknowledge and celebrate the heritage, perseverance, and achievements of Black Americans in our nation's history. We acknowledge their struggle as an American struggle and at its core reflects upon our society. And whereas in Salt Lake City and Utah, we have many heroes to look up to and learn from trailblazers of the past, current leaders, as well as the luminaries of the future. Now therefore be it resolved that Salt Lake City recognizes the month of February as Black History Month and the importance of Black History Month as an opportunity to reflect on the complex history of the United States while remaining hopeful and confident about the path forward. Be it further resolved that the Salt Lake City Council and Mayor of Salt Lake City remain dedicated to dismantling racial inequality while advancing equity and justice to all. Be it further resolved that Salt Lake City is committed to continuing the progress made throughout Black history, but also to ensure a positive Black future. We create history every day, And if we work together to make our today better than yesterday, our tomorrow will only be that much brighter. Be it further resolved, the theme of Black History Month 2024 is Black resistance. We have the opportunity and responsibility to not only reflect on the obstacles overcome, but to also make the present a time where Black Americans equitably excel and thrive.
I will look for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we adopt a joint resolution recognizing February 2024 as Black History Month in Salt Lake City.
Second.
I have a motion on the table by Councilmember Dugan and a second by Councilmember Mano. Any discussions on this motion? I will call the question. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? This motion passes unanimously. I would like to welcome Avi Deson-Mon, Chair of the Criminal Justice Division for the NAACP, here with us today to receive the resolution. Thank you for being with us today. Would you like to say some words?
Yes, just a few words. Thank you so much to the esteemed members of the City Council, to Mayor Mendenhall and her office. On behalf of Janetta Williams, President of the NAACP Salt Lake Branch, the Executive Board, and the members of the NAACP, thank you profoundly for this recognition. As you stated, Black history is American history, and it's important that we take this time not just to reflect on the contributions that Black individuals have made to the culture, to education, to technology, to education, to religion, all of the things that you stated. Not only take the time to reflect on the profound impact that Black individuals have had, but to recognize and reckon with the dark history that accompanies Black history. So again, on behalf of the NAACP Salt Lake Branch, Ms. Janetta Williams and the Executive Board, we thank you again for this recognition.
Thank you. Will you join us over here for a photo?
Thank you.
So thank you. That brings us to the public comment hearing section of our agenda, which is a specific request, which are specific requests before the council that require a public hearing. If you would like to comment on those specific public hearings items today, we're accepting comments in person and online, and we had an issue online, and I'm not sure if it's resolved. No. We need to do some testing. If you need to speak with our staff, please raise your hand in the room or in Zoom, and a staff person will assist you. For those in the Zoom, our staff person, Achinta Mahajun, can assist you with your registration issues or technical questions. Taylor Hill and our staff will be calling those who wish to comment based on the order we received those names. If you are in the Zoom, please unmute your mic when Taylor calls your name. Each person will have 2 minutes, and we will move through each person who has signed up to speak. My English is great today. Just a reminder, our goal is to create and keep a safe space for everyone to share their comments. So please follow our public comment rules when making your remarks. Disruptions or threats to anyone's safety are not allowed. Look for the rules of decorum. If anyone uses discriminatory language, curses, or disruption occurs, we will pause your comments to remind you about the rules before you can continue. Some of the rules of decorum are posted, well, all of the rules of decorum are posted on the link and they are posted outside the door. The council respects all points of view and welcomes new insights. Please be respectful while sharing your comments, avoid yelling, using profanity, making racial slurs, obscene or defamatory remarks. If you violate this rule, we'll mute you and you may forfeit your chance to address the council tonight. Now, moving on to public hearing B1. This is an ordinance, and we are welcoming at the table Brian for a short introduction.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a proposed rezone at 357 and 375 East, 500 South, 464 to 466 South, 400 East, and 460 to 462 South, 400 East. It would amend the zoning map for these properties from their current RMU 45 or residential mixed-use zoning to TSA UCC or Transit Station Area Urban Center Core. The proposed zoning would allow greater building height than the current RMU 45 zoning. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Taylor, please start our first public comment on this item.
Thank you, Council Chair. We have one person registered for this item. That will be Cindy Cromer, who is here in person.
My name is Cindy Cromer. It's rare that I don't know what to say about a rezoning proposal. I do know to ask you to keep this public hearing open. In the meantime, I can try to figure out why Cowboy Partners, a developer wearing a white hat, needs a rezoning for a project already under construction. I'm delighted that you inquired about the community benefit at your work session for the proposal, but I have no information about what is on the table. I can, however, comment on development agreements at length. I have been complaining about them for 10 years. I am pleased to learn that the state statute now requires that a proposed development agreement goes through the entire public process instead of being tacked on at the end after the last public hearing. I have long complained about the lack of transparency for citizens and for developers, and now that I have tracked the amount of time required from the attorney's office, I'm going to add the cost of drafting unique agreements to the shortcomings of development agreements. When you figure out what's on the table regarding the proposed rezoning, I really would appreciate another 2 minutes. Thanks.
Anybody else wishes to comment on item B1? I'm looking for a motion.
Sure. I move that the council continue the public hearing to a future council meeting.
Second.
There's a motion by Councilmember Lopez Chavez and a second by Councilmember Wharton. Any discussion on this item? Okay, I'm going to call the question. Councilmember Young?
Aye.
Councilmember Dugan?
Aye.
Councilmember Mano?
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez Chavez?
Aye.
Councilmember Wharton?
Aye.
Councilmember Petro?
Aye.
And I'm a aye. This motion passes unanimously. Moving on to public hearing B2, ordinance for the library budget amendment number 1 for fiscal year 2023-2024. Ben Lackey at the table to give us a brief introduction.
There are 2 items in library budget amendment number 1. The total expenditure is nearly $230,000. The first item is $166,000 for a 1% cost of living increase to all employees at the library. This also covers higher than expected medical insurance premiums. The second item is $66,000 for a new full-time safety associate employee. This would increase the library's safety team up to 14 members. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ben. Taylor, please show us our first public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There is one person registered for this item. That will be Mohammed Naguyeb. Mohammed, you may now unmute.
Hi, sorry, I think I haven't registered for this item, so something maybe went wrong.
Anybody else wishes to comment on this item, B2? I'm looking for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that the council adopt an ordinance amending the fiscal year 2024 final budget of the Salt Lake City Library, including the employment staffing document only for items as shown on the motion sheet.
Second.
I have a motion on the table by Councilmember Dugan and a second by Councilmember Petro. Ben?
Sorry, Mr. Chair. I realize the motion sheet for motion 3 doesn't say close the public hearing first, so you could close the public hearing and adopt.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, may I amend my motion?
Please.
I move that the council close the public hearing and refer the, close the public hearing. And then we adopt an ordinance amending the fiscal year 2024 final budget, the Salt Lake City Library, including the employment staffing document only for the items as shown in the motion sheet.
I still second.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Dugan and a second by Councilmember Petro. Any discussion on this?
Are we voting on the amendment or the motion?
We're voting. It wasn't. We didn't need to vote.
There was no substitute
because there was
motion.
not a different person requesting. So he amended his own motion. So any discussion on this? Okay. So all of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? This motion passes unanimously. Now we are moving to potential action items. And this is C1, Ordinance Budget Amendment number 3 for fiscal year 2023-2024. I need a motion.
Chair, I move that the council adopted an ordinance amending the fiscal year 2024 final budget of Salt Lake City, including the employment staffing document only for items as shown on the motion sheet, and move to authorize release of the condition regarding the temporary sanctioned campground fund.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Petro and a second by Councilmember Dugan. Any discussion on this item? Okay, all of those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? This motion passes unanimously. I am going to do some shifting, so bear with me on the agenda. I'm going to shift item F and G ahead. They should be moving very quick. So, and then we're going to go to item D1 and D2. So there is no new business and unfinished business, which is F. We're going to discuss F1. This is an ordinance for Economic Development Loan Fund for EATS LLC. I will need a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that the council adopt an ordinance approving a $100,000 loan for EATS LLC from the Economic Development Loan Fund.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion by Councilmember Dugan and a second by Councilmember Petro. Any discussion on this motion?
Chair, may I?
Yes.
I just wanted to take the opportunity to invite and, to welcome EATS LLC. I got to meet the owners. It's Black and Latino owned. I'm really excited to have them, and they have the best vegan sweets to offer our city. So I'm really happy that we get to maintain and have this small business in District 4.
Very exciting. Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, I'm going to call the question. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes unanimously. We're moving to item F2, the ordinance clarification for rezone and master plan amendment for approximately 1435 South State Street. I need a motion.
Chair, I move that the council confirm its intent expressed in its motion of November 7th, 2023, adopting the ordinance rezoning the properties and amending the future land use map with the condition that the petitioner enter into a development agreement with the city that requires petitioner to do the following. 1, replace any dwelling units demolished with at least as many dwelling units as will be demolished. And 2, include a minimum of 40% of the building's ground floor facade fronting State Street as active uses allowed in the zoning district, which uses shall not be residential or parking. All portions of such spaces shall extend a minimum of 25 feet into the building.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Petro and a second by Councilmember Dugan. Any discussion on this motion? Okay, I'm going to call the question. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, this motion carries unanimously. I am moving on now to section G, which is the consent agenda. I need a motion.
Move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Wharton, sorry. I know you for 10 years. And a second by Councilmember Dugan. Any discussion of this? I'm going to call the question. All of those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, that motion passes unanimously. We're moving now to going back to item D1, and these are questions for the mayor. Thank you again, Mayor, for being here. Victoria, I guess these are my notes for you when you're chairing, but is there any comments? Okay, now moving on to item D2. We're now to the general comment portion of the agenda and welcome your comments of any item of interest. As a reminder, for those joining on Zoom, Achinta Mahajun from our staff will moderate our Zoom and will message you with any questions about your registration. Whether you are in person with us or in Zoom meeting, please raise your hand and a staff person will assist you. For those in Zoom, select Achinta Mahajun from the list of participants. The staff is handling many tasks, so please limit your messages to technical issues and minimal informational updates. Taylor Hill and our staff will be calling those who wish to comment based on the order of the registration and when we receive the comment cards. If you are in Zoom, please unmute your mic when Taylor calls your name. The 2-minute mark, after the 2-minute mark, the host will announce time and your microphone will be muted. If you are unable to finish your comment, please send the rest via email, mail, or call our office. Just as a reminder, please follow our public comment rules when making your remarks. If anyone uses discriminatory language, curses, or disruption occurs, we'll pause your comments to remind you about the rules before you can continue. Our goal is to hear from all of you and also maintain a safe and orderly meeting. Taylor, can you please begin with our first general comment?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have 56 people registered for general comment. The first will be Brittany Mast, followed by Jill Alger-James, and then Aziz Abzuyed. Brittany is here in person.
Hello, my name is Brittany, and I'm an organizer with Armed Queers of Salt Lake, and I'm here today to ask you to make a direct claim for an immediate ceasefire for Palestine. Week after week, you've seen our numbers grow. It's not going to stop. People of Salt Lake and Utah know what is happening. It is a genocide. The last time I was here, you kept acknowledging our solidarity when we would lightly snap our fingers after one of us would speak. So to me, that shows that you obviously understand what solidarity means. However, I just want to point out to you that solidarity is a feeling as well as an action. It's where we can come together as a community, as a collective, and as people to stand up to injustice and oppression, despite if the situation directly affects us or not. So there's a saying that I'm sure you've heard of it: an injury to one is an injury to all. However, for Palestine, it's not just one. It's 57,000 and growing, and that's every day. So now, since you were easily able to point out our solidarity, we now put it back onto you, Council. We ask for you to show that solidarity. We ask for you to feel that hurt and that devastation that these Palestinians are feeling every single day, and follow it up with direct and immediate action.
Next will be Jill Alger-James, followed by Aziz Abzuyed, and then Michael Valentine. Jill's here in person.
Hi, my name's Jill Alger-James. I'm an LCSW in private practice, and I live in District 6. Hi, Dan. It's good to see you. I'm here to share some stories. I lived a long time ago in the 80s in Palestine, and I worked for the YMCA on the Palestinian side in Jerusalem. It was a YMCA that was operated by the Palestinians. I saw some things there that were life-changing, and I wanted to share those with you because it's gotten a million times worse since I was there, a bazillion times worse. When I was there, it was an apartheid state, still is, only much worse. Whenever I drove somewhere, if I was in a yellow license-plated car, we went straight through. If it was blue, We got pulled over all the time, and I worked between Jerusalem and Jericho. So depending on what car I had, what we were in, was dependent on how fast we got to work. I also saw outside of the YMCA was the American consulate on the East Jerusalem side. And there was a silent protest going on there. It was women, mothers, grandmothers, sisters, standing outside in silence, wanting for their men, fathers, grandfathers, sons, to be released from the military prisons they were kept in. On the other side, here comes some horses, men on horses. They had big clubs, and they started clubbing these innocent people who were in a silent demonstration. It was life-changing for me to see that. I had no idea human beings could be so awful, and they've gotten much, much worse. But one time, I went with the Lawyers Without Borders and the Catholic Relief Services, where they found out somehow in advance that homes were going to be demolished. So we would go plant olive trees. One time planting those olive trees, there's a bulldozer behind me. He's bulldozing down the olive trees we were planting. He gets out of his truck, and I had a big camera. Got it out to take a picture, and he
Thank you.
Next will be Aziz Abzuyed, followed by Michael Valentine, and then Jack follows. Aziz is here in person.
I was very hesitant to come here today. I don't know whether our words will make any difference. We've shown up here time and after again, and nothing happened. It's just a call for a ceasefire, a call for the killing and death to stop, and you cannot make that happen. I am not sure if I believe in democracy because, like I asked my colleague a minute ago, is all motions supposed to pass unanimously? And he said, no, it needs just a simple majority. And I was like, then how come there's not a single person saying no to anything, which means there's something wrong in this democracy. There's something wrong that this council cannot make right decisions, cannot speak the truth, cannot be true to themselves, to their values, cannot even be true to the Pledge of Allegiance that you all stood up and said, justice, liberty, and justice for all. And for Palestinians, being threatened and being, attacked on the streets. Just today, there was a Palestinian man shot in Austin, Texas. He was stabbed, in the chest by a white man that thinks that he can just snatch a keffiyeh or a Palestinian flag and attack someone and stab them. This kind of thing keeps happening just to us, keeps happening just to Palestinians, and yet every time we call for a ceasefire, every time we ask you to call for a ceasefire, you just give us this empty rhetoric about, wanting to satisfy or not making the other side feel unsafe. But we feel unsafe. We feel unheard. We feel we feel non-existent. We don't feel that we exist in this world. And if you want to learn more, we're having an educational session on Thursday in the City Library, Meeting Room A. Please be there at 6.
Next will be Michael Valentine, followed by Jack follows, and then Josh Darner. Michael's here in person.
Hello. So I'm Michael Valentine. I'm a former candidate for Salt Lake City Mayor, current candidate for Salt Lake County Mayor. I'm very pleased to report that I just ran the most cost-effective mayor campaign in the last 20 years, where I had more votes than dollars spent. So I'm very excited about this upcoming election. I'm here for the same reason everyone else is here, for a ceasefire now. I see you guys pass resolutions. I applaud you for passing a resolution just now, recognizing, Black history, but I'd ask you to urge you to learn that Black history. Huey P. Newton, one of the founders of the Black Panthers, supported Palestine. South Africa, Nelson Mandela supported Palestine. apartheid state. This is an issue that we've been here for four times in a row asking, and it's really not a political issue. You know, I hear Victoria talking about political capital. We need political courage. We need you guys to move beyond politics and reach down to your humanity. These are people dying. I know a lot of you are parents. I know you have children and sisters and brothers and aunts and uncles. This is not about being anti-Jewish. This is about Zionism. This is about genocide. Please stand on the right side of history. Come talk to Aziz. This is not far away. Uncles, his aunts, his cousins have died since October in Gaza. He's sitting right here. It's right in our face. I applaud Ava for trying to push this behind closed doors. Ava, come speak out in public. Stand up and demand your support right now. Don't have this conversation behind closed doors. This needs to be having out and open. It needs to be something that we do right now. You know, it's good to get sports teams here. It's good to get the Olympics here and to do all these other things. I applaud that. I applaud the Green Loop. I applaud all these amazing things, but let's have that be on a foundation of human rights. Ceasefire right now. I'm not yelling at you guys. I'm here working with you. I'm here to urge you to do better than you are. I know you guys have it in you. I know you can be the council we need you to be right now. Ceasefire now.
Next will be Jack Follows, followed by Josh Darner, and then Fran Lopez. Jack's here in person.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Jack Bellows, and I'm the chair of the Salt Lake Democratic Socialists of America. And I'm here because 35,000 Palestinians, 13,000 of whom are children, have been murdered in Gaza by Israel, and this council has remained silent, even as dozens of cities across the country have called for a ceasefire. Now, Gaza is not a big place. It's only a little bit bigger than Salt Lake City is geographically, yet it's had the equivalent of 2 atomic bombs dropped on it in firepower. Imagine if 2 atomic bombs dropped on Salt Lake City. That would be absolutely devastating. And this council has yet to call for a ceasefire. Are you kidding me? What Israel's doing is nothing short of a genocide. Everyone up to the highest court in the world, the ICJ, recognizes this. So why is it so hard for this council to pass a resolution calling for a ceasefire? Y'all pass resolutions all the time. The one you passed earlier tonight was wonderful. Why can't we do that for a ceasefire? Over 1,000 of your constituents and dozens of community organizations, including Salt Lake DSA, have signed a petition demanding you pass a ceasefire resolution. And that list of signatories keeps growing. By not passing a ceasefire resolution, you are telling the city and in turn the world that this city is not safe for Palestinians and Arabs and Muslims. And this council does not see them as equal to you and me. Ceasefire now.
Next will be Josh Darner, followed by Fran Lopez, and then Daniel White. Josh is here in person.
Hi, I'm Josh from Sarah Young's district. A ceasefire in Gaza is needed right now. The longer we wait to draft and pass a ceasefire resolution, more innocent lives are lost to Israel's violence. The killing of civilians is increasing, and it's difficult to even keep track of the total number because of the total collapse of the healthcare and emergency services in Gaza at the hand of Israel. As we speak, Israel is bombing Rafah, a city in the south of Gaza where 1.5 million displaced Gazans are currently located, most of whom are living in tents. They're freezing, starving, dehydrated, sick, wounded, and traumatized, all at the hand of Israel. So what is Utah doing about this? We fund Israel and we encourage them. It absolutely baffles me that it's taken this long to draft and to pass a ceasefire resolution for Salt Lake, which, by the way, over 1,000 of your constituents have petitioned for this. You've spent weeks drafting a resolution for a ceasefire, yet Utah State Legislature was able to respond with official support of the State of Israel in as little as 4 days after October 7th. In this official statement, our legislature declares, Utah has strong ties with Israel, including religious foundations, family-centered values. I hope you take note of the sarcasm in my voice of family-centered values when they're blowing up children. Comparable geographic features and dynamic ecosystems and economies. Both Utah and Israel are important trading partners and have cultivated mutually beneficial relationships. Furthermore, the Utah State Legislature declared, Be it further known, the Utah legislature calls upon Utah law enforcement to remain vigilant in protecting Israeli Americans, Jewish Americans, and all supporters of Israel from acts of crime and unlawful discrimination that tend to manifest at such times. So no mention of Palestinian Americans, our neighbors.
Thank you. Taylor.
Next is Fran Lopez, followed by Daniel White, and then Fern Robin. Fran's here in person.
Hi, my name's Fran Lopez. I'm in Sarah Young's district. Last week, I was able to speak to Chris Wharton and get some information about what's taking so long for this resolution. I'm grateful that you're working on it at all. It's kind of like begging for scraps, but I can't even imagine what that feels like, although Palestinians can because they're starving. I'd like to acknowledge that the only reason that we have to conform to these systems that are not built to support us and they're only built to oppress us, which is so ironic that we have to come here and beg for humanity and be told, you know, these things take time and they're complicated. It's really not. It's really not that complicated when it's genocide, because we can sit here all day and talk about decorum and wanting to make everything civil and orderly, but I don't know any issue in history where Black and brown lives have been murdered like this, where decorum or order has ever helped them. These systems are not built to help people who look like me. They're definitely not built to help Palestinians, and they deserve better. I was here at the last city council meeting, and I'll be here at the next. I urge you to have urgency when drafting this resolution. I know that you're looking for feedback and waiting for things, take red tape and bureaucracy and all that jazz. I urge you to think about the impact that you can have by passing this as soon as possible. Thank you.
Next will be Daniel White, followed by Fern Robin, and then Ambreen Khan. Daniel's here in person.
My name's Pippin. I wanted to take a moment to talk about why history is important. It's important because of current events. There's no reason to record history or to learn from history if we're not going to apply it. Marsha P. Johnson is a beautiful Black trans woman who helped with the Stonewall riots in New York that led to what we have today as Pride. The Utah state legislation just passed discriminatory bills that removes DEI from public offices and targets trans people. I think that celebrating history while repeating history is not an effective use of time. I think that as we spend Black History Month learning about Black history and learning about Black leaders in the US and around the world, we'll recognize the harmful impact that the United States has had, not only here, but around the world. That when you look at how we interacted with Vietnam and the language that was used, how it's very similar to what is going on in Palestine right now. That if we value Black lives only when they're dead, that is shameful. Black and brown lives deserve humanity, respect, and we must do everything in our power to protect those locally and abroad. That we have to exert our energy making it so that we will not become a conversation 100 years from now of people needing to withstand oppression.
Time.
Ceasefire now.
Next will be Fern Robin, followed by Ambreen Khan, and then Monica Hilding. Fern, you may now unmute.
I can't get them out of my head. I don't want to get them out of my head. The little girl with her eye cut open, asking if she will ever be able to see again. The little boy in that video. trembling and saying he was stuck, that all around him was darkness and he was crushed. That it was his reality for God knows how long. A minute, an hour, a day, a week, I don't know, and it doesn't matter. Any amount of time stuck under rubble is too long. And he got out. He was rescued. He was saved. But still, he could barely even cling to this reality. A child. As the person recording the video walked away, the look of fear and horror in the child's eyes will haunt me forever. He just wants someone to hold him and console him. All I want is to be able to tell him that the killing will stop, that it will be over soon. I want to hold him and stop his hands from trembling. He was one of the survivors. I can't even fathom the 35,000 people murdered and 8,000 plus missing people crushed under their homes, stuck in the rubble, who that was their reality until their death. Suffocation. Absolutely and very literally soul-crushing. One of the hardest videos to see was a man with his skull fully flattened, crushed, deformed. So horrific, so abhorrent. And I know the worst moments, these press people, these reporters, they did not press record for. I can't even fathom the depths of horror that these people have witnessed. I cannot begin to comprehend their heartbreak, the trauma, the pain, all because they were born in Palestine. These people are innocent. I've never heard of a victim that has had the power to instantly and effortlessly cut off the oppressor's food, water, and electricity. I've never heard of a victim who shoots innocent civilians holding white flags. I've never seen a victim post pictures online of the stripped person he is torturing. Ceasefire.
Next will be Ambreen Khan, followed by Monica Hilding, and then Katie Pappas. Ambreen is here in person.
Hi, I saw you laughing as that person was speaking, Alejandro. I'm your constituent. My name is Ambreen. There's been 6 Palestinians and additionally 2 Muslims who have been shot, killed, or stabbed in the last couple months in the United States, including a 23-year-old that was stabbed yesterday. They're members of this community, including myself, who have been spat at. We've been called terrorists. We've been told to go kill ourselves for supporting Palestinians. And this is not behind social media. This is to our faces. And this is a direct result of the lack of protections that this city and the state is offering to Palestinians, to Arabs, to Muslims, and their allies. How is it that you're okay with supporting congressional representatives that are paid by Israel to run our government, but you're not willing to protect your own constituents and offer us safety? Alejandro, I got an email from you about Black History Month, so I offered you that book today. It's by Angela Davis. It's called Freedom is a Constant Struggle from Ferguson to Palestine. And she says, just as the struggle to end South African apartheid was embraced by people all over the world and was incorporated into many social justice agendas, solidarity with Palestine must likewise be taken up by organizations and movements involved in progressive causes all over the world. We constantly have to make connections. Other Black visionaries like Nelson Mandela, Alice Walker, Malcolm X, James Baldwin, and even this 9-year-old Palestinian by the name of Lama Jamous have been calling for a free Palestine. So I urge you to consider a ceasefire resolution and condemn the genocide that is happening to the people of Gaza. This puts pressure on President Biden and congressional representatives and lets them know that no matter how many racist, transphobic, xenophobic laws they pass, that we're watching and will stand for human rights globally and locally. Thank you.
Next will be Monica Hilding, followed by Katie Pappas, and then Courtney Huey. Monica's here in person.
Hello, my name is Monica Hilding, and I want to thank you for this opportunity to speak to the City Council on behalf of the Stop the Polluting Port members. We urge rapid action on the interlocal agreement as outlined by City Council Katie Lewis. The need for critical planning studies to mitigate health and community impacts from inland port developments has been carefully defined by Salt Lake City, and the funds for these studies were contractually committed to by UEPA and Salt Lake City in the original interlocal agreement. Salt Lake City not only has a vested interest in the health and economic welfare of its residents, it has a century of experience in mounting similar projects. Salt Lake City subject matter experts have already outlined a process for preparing baseline scenarios using detailed planning data available to them that will significantly expedite the completion of the impact studies, beginning with the traffic impact study. Salt Lake City is lucky to have John Larson, Salt Lake City's Transportation Division Director, who understands what a real traffic analysis is. The 60-page Wasatch Front Corridor Study of 2015-2017, written to prepare for a rapidly changing transportation future through 2050 by Utah's 4 largest transportation agencies, includes numerous data charts of vehicle travel that Mr. Larson could put together as a baseline. An independent consulting firm can then use these traffic impact baseline scenario to outline the impact of the Northwest Quadrant development from the formation of the Inland Port Authority in 2018 up to today, and through the ultimate build-out of the Northwest Quadrant as anticipated by the Inland Port Authority. The traffic impact study is a data-driven analysis of the direct and indirect traffic volume generated by the inland port, along with the traffic distribution by vehicle type. The traffic, yes.
Next will be Katie Pappas, followed by Courtney Huey, and then William Buya. Katie's here in person.
My name is Katie Pappas, and I live in Salt Lake City. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. The 2022 interlocal agreement between Salt Lake City and the Utah Inland Port Authority requires that a traffic study, a human health impact assessment, and a community impact assessment be conducted. Salt Lake City has carefully defined the need for these critical planning studies. Although the 2023 deadline to initiate these studies has passed, I'm asking Salt Lake City to act on the interlocal agreement as outlined by City Legal Counsel Katie Lewis on January 6, 2024, in the Northwest Quadrant Community Session. All 3 of these studies are important and reliant on each other. The community impact assessment would serve as a master plan to guide future development in the port area. A 2023 EPA Environmental Justice Study confirms the disproportionate impact of pollution on West Side communities. This community impact study should include input from citizens not usually included in the conversation and accommodations made to enable that. This citizen-based research should be updated every 3 years to keep current data. Without the data these studies would provide, what would the referred to master plan be based on? And how would we understand development impacts in order to prevent and mitigate harm? How would we protect communities and the environment? And lastly, how would we determine where the 40% community tax differential funds set aside for West Side communities are needed? As the first inland port area approved in the state, Salt Lake City will set a precedent for community and data-driven port development and allow other port-impacted communities to follow suit. Please expedite these important studies. Thank you.
Next will be Courtney Huey, followed by William Buya, and then Terry Marasco. Courtney's here in person.
I got to work on my handwriting because that U is an N. I'm Dr. Courtney Henley. I'm on the board of Utah Physicians for a Healthy Environment. UPHE is committed to improving the health and well-being of the residents of Utah by promoting science-based education and interventions that result in the best social determinant of good health for all of us, which is clean air. I'm a resident of Salt Lake City. I reside in District 3. In October 2022, an interlocal cooperation agreement was signed by Salt Lake City, the RDA, and the Utah Inland Port Authority, and the agreement stipulates that a health impact assessment is supposed to be completed that will evaluate the existing and potential health effects of the inland port development in Salt Lake City. It was supposed to be done by December 31st of 2023, and I think we all know it is not completed. I'm concerned it hasn't started yet. Local government is the last line of defense for the health and well-being of her residents. If Salt Lake City can't muster the will to care about the health of her people, nobody else is going to. Salt Lake City must not stand by at these board meetings and nod in agreement while the executive director and the board of the authority delay the health impact assessment indefinitely. Let's make it easy on ourselves. The first step of a health impact assessment is data collection, pure and simple. The city needs a full-time employee who will coordinate with the Division of Air Quality and the Department of Health to begin retrospective and prospective data collection of air quality and health outcomes. For example, December 2023 was a horrible inversion. How many kids didn't go to school because they had respiratory illness? How many older gentlemen showed up in the ER with chest pain? Data collection can start now. We don't need to delay it any further for discussion of modeling and analysis, et cetera. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next will be William Boya, followed by Terry Marasco, and then Stuart Robertson. William's here in person.
Good evening, everybody. My name is William. I want to just start off with Palestinians are being starved to death. And if they're not being starved to death, they're being infected to death with all kind of contagious diseases just roaming around, floating around. And if they're not being starved and infected to death, they're being bombed and shot to death, such as beautiful young girl here, 6 years old, Miss Hine. She was in the car where her family was getting shot at by in an Israeli tank. Very sad. Her sister called for help. Her sister wound up dying. She is alive. She's missing. The paramedics that went out there and responded to the call to help her, to rescue her and her family, are missing as well. So we have 2 missing paramedics at least, and the 6-year-old girl. It's very sad, very tragic. I know that we do have some wonderful officers within the Salt Lake City Police Department that have some sort of combat military training that would just love to be able to volunteer to go over to Gaza to be able to help the children and the families at these camps, to be able to protect the kids, the families, to help with the food situation. And that leads me to the next thing. If we can't do anything as far as protecting them in the camps, can we please do some sort of an airdrop? Can we get them some food over there? Whatever it is, can we get them some more food? They're being starved to death. That's it. Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Next will be Stuart Robinson, followed by Jana Zamir, and then N Canada. Stuart, you may now unmute.
Hello, my legal name is Stuart Robinson. However, my chosen name is Oak. I am a constituent of District 5, and I am a queer individual. I was pleased to see this council release a statement opposing HB 257. That bill is horrid and transphobic, and along with HB 261, should never have been proposed, much less passed. This council showed some solidarity with that issue, and it was appreciated. I really wish that solidarity extended to the people who are suffering in Palestine. We have been coming to you for weeks now to explain the urgency of the situation and what we as constituents of Salt Lake want you to do. Pass a resolution calling for a ceasefire in Palestine and the allowance of urgent humanitarian aid to be delivered to Gaza. Many of the people who I've seen commenting here each week are the same ones I've seen at the protests against HB 257. Why are you ignoring us here? Is it because you don't care when families are dying, children are being starved, genocide is being committed, when you think it doesn't affect you? You have the power to make a statement passing a resolution for a ceasefire. Doing anything less is pure cowardice and complicity. Approximately 80% of Democrats and 55% of Republicans support a ceasefire. You've received a petition with over 1,000 signatures from your constituents supporting a ceasefire. We continue to comment here. What else are we supposed to do? Are you going to oppose what the International Court of Justice has stated is likely a genocide being committed by Israel? Israel continues to commit war crimes and has even lured starving children to death by disguising bombs as cans of food. This depravity is not separate from us, as our country and state continues to fund it. As elected officials, you are even more responsible, and your silence shows us support. Do you support the murder of innocent Palestinians? I'd ask you to answer that, but I know you'll just hide by calling time and the fact you aren't required to respond. Show us that you have any morals at all and pass a ceasefire resolution.
And next will be Jana Zamir, followed by N Canada, and then Erin Lynn. Jana, you may now unmute.
Taylor, I don't think we're hearing anything.
We will circle back and move on to N Canada. N, you may now unmute.
My name is N Canada, and I live in District 5. More than 10,000 Palestinians have been murdered since last public comment. I'm not sure how much death is enough for this body to denounce Israel's actions. The majority of the nations around the world are denouncing this genocide and our hand in it. The crimes against humanity presented at the ICJ move that body to declare Palestinians a protected ethnicity against genocide and telling Israel to cease its genocidal actions. Our government announced almost $20 billion of our dollars to go to fund this genocide, $20 billion that could end homelessness not only in Salt Lake City, but in the entire country. This body needs to condemn the federal government's commitment to a genocidal state over our own suffering people. If we cannot pass a resolution here in Salt Lake City, where truly are our morals? Where is our commitment to progressing our species? Where have our hearts gone? People say, how could the world let the Holocaust happen? This is how, right now, the council's silence and hand-wringing, the federal government's funding of a genocide. Our country has lost its moral standing on the global stage. We must rebuild it starting here. Send our resolution to the Biden administration and Congress. We have power. We are not powerless. However, if you do not stand and pass a strong ceasefire and anti-genocide resolution, we have fallen into powerlessness. We now know how people nearly 100 years ago let the Nazis commit a genocide. Let's hope we can stop Israel's genocide before they too murder millions. And I want to add that as a Black Salt Laker, I find it depressing that you celebrate my people's legacy without learning from its purpose. Fighting against genocide, fighting against oppression, fighting against racism, and fighting against imperialism. Thank you.
Next will be Erin Lynn, followed by Alan Sanderson, and then Terry Marasco. Erin, you may now unmute.
Taylor, we might want to circle back. We cannot hear anything.
Yep, moving on to Alan Sanderson, followed by Terry Marasco, and then Yvette Romero Coronado. Alan is here in person.
Good evening. I understand the city is working on modifying the ordinances regarding park strips and what we can put in there. I'd like to speak to that. The first issue, the 20% rock mulch limit should be relaxed. Well, I understand the concern. My park strip is on the waterward side of the road. With heavy rains, there is so much water that washes everything out of the park strip. I now have a large rock on the upstream side that when there's a large amount of water, I have a 3-foot standing wave in front of my yard. That still does not impede the water. As such, I have installed softball-sized blocky rock throughout my park strip, so to preserve the plants. After a storm, my neighbors who have installed bark, mulch, small rock, or even large rounded rock can usually find their park strip material 100 meters down the road, if at all. If the city wants me to remove the rock, I will be happy to do that, because with the new ordinance, as way it's proposed, the city tree will be sufficient. When I do that, I will remove all the plants, and I'll also remove all the drip irrigation I've installed. However, before that happens, more than likely a utility will trash my park strip. They've done this twice in the last 5 years. Unfortunately, the city is as much to blame for this as the utilities. The city and the utilities are still in grass mode. They have no idea how to work in a park strip that is xeriscaped. The city nor the utilities have processes, procedures, or best practices regarding such work. Over the past 2 years, I've tried to engage the city on this issue. I've met with the Director of Public Services. I've proposed ideas in writing. I volunteered to be on a working group. Councilman Dugan can attest to this, and I thank him for his efforts on my behalf, but the response from the city has been crickets. As such, if the city is going to change the park strip ordinances, at the same time, they must change the ordinance.
Thank you.
Next will be Terry Marasco, followed by Yvette Romero Cornando, and then Mary O'Connell. Terry's here in person.
Hi, Terry Marasco. I am the chair of the Jordan Meadows Community Council. I speak as an individual, the council, and a member of the West Side Coalition. So I think you all received an email from me today, which you can read on your own. But I'd like to emphasize one of the things in this email, and that is I've heard from certain credible sources that the city may not be very comfortable with forming partnerships with other entities to deal with the problems on the West Side, particularly public safety. I don't see any way, unless you put millions of dollars into it, that the city can do this on its own. So the solution needs to happen because you have these huge projects coming. Fair Park will be redeveloped. Obviously, the Larry Miller Group, and certainly the other power project. So I'd like to emphasize that you have to absolutely form partnerships. And the mayor said at the State of the City that partnerships were a big part of her agenda. So please come together to do this. And many of us on the West Side in leadership have talked to the Miller Group in particular. And we do hear things that say they're concerned about public safety when they want to locate this in my community. Thank you.
Next will be Yvette Romero Cornando, followed by Mary O'Connell, and then Erin Lynn. Yvette is here in person.
Good evening. My name is Yvette Romero Coronado. I am a resident of the West Side and West Valley specifically, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker. The Gaza Strip is a graveyard for thousands of children, according to the United Nations. Since October 7th, Israeli attacks have killed at least 10,000 children. That is one Palestinian child killed every 15 minutes, and about 1 out of 100 children in the Gaza Strip. Thousands more are missing under the rubble, most of them presumed dead. The surviving children who have endured the traumatic impact of multiple wars have spent their lives under the shadow of an Israeli blockade, influencing every aspect of their existence from birth. Here are the names of some of those children that were killed before they reached their first birthday. Abd al-Jawad Mizar Jamal Hozo, Abdel Khaled Fadi Khaled al-Baba, Abdel Rahim Ahmed Abdel Rahim Awad, Abdel Rahman Ahmed Isam Salah, Abdel Rahman Samir Salam Assad, Abdel Rauf Ibrahim Abdel Rauf Al-Farah, Abdul Karim Abdullah Omar Shehab, Abdul Karim Kamel Sidan Al-Hawarji, Adam Mahji Jaber Al-Dado, Adam Mohammed Fad Al-Gah, Adan Mohammed Samir Abu Ajwa, Ahmed Mohammed Ahmed Dalol, Ahmed Mohammed Amin Nofal, Ahmed Mohammed Yasser Darduna, Ahmed Saeed and so many more.
Next will be Mary O'Connell, followed by Aaron Lynn, and then Ron Zamir. Mary is here in person.
Hi, my name's Mary O'Connell. I'm the chair of the Friends of Sunnyside Park. We oppose the University of Utah building their collegiate baseball stadium in any form on their current practice field in Sunnyside Park or on the land that the city is considering leasing to the university. We're asking the city to abide by the East Bench Master Plan that was designed in 2017. That plan talked about expanding Sunnyside Park to actually make it better for the neighborhood, increase public park land, create an area that would have meeting rooms, maybe a place for a senior center, trails, and we're asking the city to abide by that East Bench plan. So what's changed since 2017? Well, the U wants to increase their student body by 10 to 12,000 students. And in doing that, they've built on many of the parcels of land that originally were available for there to build a collegiate baseball stadium. Also, the Bees were supposed to move to Daybreak, and Smith's Ballpark was, I don't know what, be tore down, who knows what was going to happen to that. Recently, the Oakland A's, though, have been in the news talking about coming to Utah, going to Daybreak, which would then have the Bees stay at the Smith's Ballpark. And why can't the U stay at Smith's Ballpark also? This process is going way too fast. The community has not been informed. There is supposed to be a meeting on February 20th. It's going to be a public meeting where the community is going to be able to comment. My understanding as the public and also the city that no one has seen renderings of what this baseball stadium that's being proposed, any of the elevations or anything, no one has seen that. So how can we comment as the public?
Thank you.
Next is Aaron Lynn, followed by Ron Zamir, and then Brody Mitchell. Aaron, you may now unmute.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Amazing. Perfect. I am Aaron Lynn, and I am a constituent of District 5. And every time I come to these things, I don't know what to say. 35,000 plus Palestinians have been killed by Israel. Like, so many people are missing. So many people support a ceasefire, and we're just like pretending that it's not happening. We're pretending that my tax dollars aren't going to it. I can't. I do not condone or consent to my tax dollars being used to kill anybody at SLCPD, sorry. I know swearing is bad. I know swearing makes me an unreasonable constituent to talk to, but I am upset about people dying. I am upset about my friends over there dying. I'm upset about people in the US dying over this. I'm like, can you just show your support at the very least? I don't know who to go to anymore. It's supposed to be you people, and you don't listen. I don't know who to talk to. You're laughing while we're commenting on this. Like, what makes you think that we want to go through the correct channels when you can't even listen to a room full of people saying, I think murdering an entire people is bad? I don't know what else to say. Ceasefire now. This is not about Hamas. This is about Israel killing an entire people. That's called genocide. Show up and actually say you're against it. I don't know why that's so hard for you. Do something. Ceasefire now.
And next will be Ron Zamir, followed by Brody Mitchell, and then Gleed Toombs. Ron, you may now unmute.
Okay, thank you. And I really applaud the council for its patience. We have to acknowledge the pain and suffering that's happening in Israel and in Gaza. But we can't let this council be hijacked by dealing with events that are the purview of our federal government. Moreover, somebody has to represent the silent majority that believes that the use of trigger words like genocide, global intifada, from the river to the sea, only have one purpose. Since they're not going to stop a genocide, but they are going to intimidate, scare, and silence Jewish members of our population. Martin Luther King got it right by saying that when people criticize Zionism, what they mean is Jews, and what they are talking about is anti-Semitism. I went and visited the killing fields at the Nova Festival, where Hamas terrorists raped, maimed, burnt, dismembered young people at a peace festival. I visited Kfar Aza and saw the burnt out buildings. If this council wants to do something, promote dialogue, get people to talk to each other. We're not going to solve problems of the Middle East here in Salt Lake City. If we want a ceasefire, and we should have a ceasefire, let's not whitewash the role of Hamas. Before October 7th, there was no murder, there was no killing, there was no many of the things that were mentioned here. If we are going to free Palestinians, we need to free them from the terrorists that are controlling their lives. Free Palestine from Hamas, let the federal government do its job, and let's focus on local issues.
Thank you. Just a reminder before Taylor, let's keep the room, let's make sure that this is a safe space for everybody to express themselves, regardless if you like or not the comment. This is a safe place for everyone. So please, remember about the rules of decorum. I appreciate it. Taylor can continue.
Next is Brody Mitchell, followed by Glebe Toombs, and then Abby Carroll. Brody's here in person.
Good evening, council members. My name is Brody. I'm a Salt Lake City resident and I'm a student. I'm 23 years old. I just want to explain that calling for a ceasefire is the bare minimum of demonstrating your humanity. People my age currently, as they're seeing the atrocities happen in Palestine, are not just keeping an eye on Palestine, but they're keeping an eye on Congo and on Sudan. And they're witnessing the kind of carnage that America causes across the world and our participation in that carnage. As we are witnessing that, we are talking about how we can build a better situation. And the more that that conversation becomes the focal point, the more irrational how you engage this it becomes, the more rational you seem, because the more rational the other side sounds, the other side, the more rational and human, the side that says, hey, look at what America's doing, this is a nightmare, right? That they sound rational, and it makes you sitting here quietly talking about, let's be kind when what we're addressing does not deserve kindness. It makes you seem irrational. And so I please call for a ceasefire, because it is the bare minimum you can do to show that you're willing to have a conversation with people who want to have a conversation, from what I understand. I'll end there.
Next will be Glebe Toombs, followed by Abby Carroll, and then Callie Wilson. Glebe is here in person.
Hi all. First, let's share 10 seconds of silence against the atrocities in Gaza. My time. Thank you. My name is Glebe Toombs. I'm a native Salt Lake resident, University of Utah graduate, and I'm here because I'm concerned about the future of Sunnyside Park. The U of U and Salt Lake City, I understand, have agreed to the transfer of 1.2 acres of land so the U can expand their practice field and have a new stadium to meet the NCAA standards. That is a problem. The public at large doesn't agree, but we are not included in the conversation, it seems. Why don't we agree? Impact, loss of land, parkland, parking, 211 more cars for just that. Wow. Lights, noise, traffic, and people. Look at the current automobile report for wrecks on Sunnyside and Guardsman. Ouch, it's big. Check it out. Shared use. The U will use the new park for other events, and I guess Capital One Bank gets name recognition for the place. Maybe that'll be called COB Event Center. That's a far cry from its current status as 1.2 acres of open space public land. I noticed an amendment to the removal of lands from open space lands. Go to your code library and pull it up. It happened November of 23. Seems convenient. You still have some scheduling issues before breaking ground. 6 months worth if we play by the rules. I have lost my trust.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next will be Abby Carroll, followed by Callie Wilson, and then Raleigh Hewlett. Abby is here in person.
Hi, so I'm gonna go backwards from my last comment. Ceasefire now, and I'm still ashamed of everybody. What I had talked about last time was the conflict in Gaza and the fact that Han Yunis had the last functional hospital, Al Nasir, and that has been besieged and bombed. So all the people there are gonna be moving down to Rafah City right now, and from Rafah, there is nowhere else to go. So I don't know what else you need from us to help convince you that this is a serious crisis. There are going to be 2.2 million people in Rafah City, and there's nowhere else to go with the Rafah crossing. Both Egypt, Israel, and the US are all involved. You are all involved, directly, indirectly, so are all of we, our tax dollars. It's hard to keep my train of thought when I can see you guys just have blank faces, and thank you for no one scoffing thus far in my speech. But what I like to say is that this is a serious pressing issue, and revolutionaries do not hide behind closed doors. Ava, we don't have conversations about ending the genocide behind closed doors. Chris Wharton, I know last time you said that you've seen articles and videos, but your conversations are behind closed doors again. Victoria, last time you scoffed at us, you're still scoffing at us today. I don't know what else you guys need from us, but my friends are in Gaza. So many people here have friends, family in Gaza. There are people from Gaza here, and you don't represent us. You don't represent the people, and the revolutionaries are rising, and we will rise. We have more audacity than you guys to be able to come up here and actually speak and demand a ceasefire week after week after week. Not just a ceasefire, we need to lift the siege on Gaza. We need to end the occupation. Immediate ceasefire. We need to get everything restored and rebuilt in Gaza and in Palestine. And yeah, you guys can do a lot better, and I hope you do. So ceasefire now.
Next will be Callie Wilson, followed by Riley Hewlett, and then Shirbazda Hamid. Callie, you may now unmute.
Hi, everyone. I'm here to call for a ceasefire resolution. I want to start by saying that no one asked to live in a period of time such as this, but we do get to choose how we live in it. To choose silence and complicity simply cannot be an option. So I'm here today to ask you to be brave, to know that history will remember your actions, that there will come a day when your grandchildren will come home from school and ask you, what did you do during the Palestinian genocide? What will you tell them? That you hid in cowardice and did absolutely nothing, or that you retained your humanity and fought by doing the right thing? I also want to remind you that it's not your job to pass judgment on what your constituents are asking of you. Whether you personally agree or disagree that a ceasefire resolution is so-called right, it's just simply not your job to do that. You're supposed to be our voice. We pay our taxes to be heard, to be part of a democracy. Now our tax dollars are being used in a genocide that none of us have consented to. And tonight, I don't feel like I'm part of a democracy anymore. If I were, my city council members would hear me and my fellow constituents and put a motion for a ceasefire resolution up for a vote. So please be brave, stand up for what is right. And remember, how you are choosing to act right now is how you would have acted during the Holocaust, during segregation, during the Civil Rights Movement. If you continue to choose silence, remember that you would have chosen silence in those periods of history as well. And I hope that that thought disturbs you. If it doesn't, you may want to take a deeper look within yourself. Salt Lake City needs to stand against genocide and show that the city is safe for everyone by standing with progress and humanity. Prove that you are on the right side of history and pass a ceasefire resolution now.
Next will be Riley Hewlett, followed by Scheherazade Hamid, and then Robert Kingsford. Riley is here in person.
Okay, just want to start. My name is Riley Hewlett. The 2-minute mark is a little bit ableist, just going to put that out there. But I'm not here to teach you a history lesson, which you could use, or try to change your mind about the things you're wrong about, which you are, frankly. I'm here as your constituent and someone who was born and raised in Utah to demand a permanent ceasefire. The majority of the Jewish community also demands a ceasefire, as most Zionists are actually Christians. Genocide and Holocaust specialists say that what is happening in Palestine is a genocide. It's a triggering word because what's happening is triggering. We can disagree on the lie of whether or not Israel has a right to defend itself, but you cannot ignore the countless war crimes, destruction, and over 35,000 Palestinian lives lost. Let me say that again. Over 35,000 Palestinian lives lost. Families destroyed, children orphaned, and parents that have lost their children. This is a massacre and genocide of the Palestinian people. If you care not for the deaths of thousands, the injuries of hundreds of thousands, and the starvation of millions, then you are not human. You do not deserve to sit where you sit because you do not represent us. You have no humanity. The only other way I can appeal to you is through the law. Israel has committed internationally recognized war crime after war crime. They have bombed hospitals where people are seeking refuge. They have targeted journalists, medics, and civilians, schools, residential areas, and are restricting any aid from entering Gaza. Whatever we disagree on, you cannot deny Israel's war crimes. A state that supposedly cares about every life should demand a permanent ceasefire. I do not want my tax dollars going to murdering children and destroying the homes and neighborhoods they grew up in. My tax dollars would be much better used to serve my community that is struggling, hungry, uninsured, and unhoused. My community and I demand a ceasefire at minimum. Thank you.
Next will be Scheherazade Hamid, followed by Robert Kingsford, and then Jenna Martin. Scheherazade, you may now unmute.
Good evening. My name is Scheherazade Hamid, and I'm a constituent from District 2. First, I would like to recognize all the brave, intelligent, and educated people who keep showing up and demand for ceasefire. Your voice is loud and clear, and you are definitely on the right side of history. I'm proud of you. I moved to the United States 18 years ago from Bulgaria, and I became a citizen only a few months ago. When I came here, I was very well aware of the shameful history of genocide on the indigenous population of America and the slavery. Just as a note, Bulgaria never occupied, colonized, genocided, or enslaved any population. Today, Americans try so hard to recover and contribute to these marginalized communities. My questions to the council members is, why you support a genocide when your own country is so ashamed of committing genocide? Believe me, one day, Israel and United States will go down in history just like the Germans did after the Second World War. But just so you know, this genocide in Gaza is even worse than the Holocaust, because the Nazis at least gave food and water to the Jews before they killed them. Today, I demand ceasefire. I demand humanitarian aid to Gaza. I demand stop funding genocide with our tax dollars. Free Palestine. Thank you.
Next will be Robert Kingsford, followed by Jenna Martin, and then Hannah Corcutt. Robert is here in person.
I don't think we can hear anything in person. Who was it?
Sorry, he's not here, Taylor.
Next will be Jenna Martin, followed by Hannah Corcutt, and then Sama Sala. Jenna is here in person.
Good evening. So the last time we met, or since the last time we met, around 2,000 more innocent civilians in the Gaza Strip have been killed in full or in part by the actions of the Israeli forces and their genocidal actions in Gaza. And, you know, I'm kind of at a loss here because I know you know the numbers. I know you've seen the footage. How much more can we show you for you to do something? When will the mounting death toll be enough for you? And how many have to die for you to care? I'd like to conduct a brief exercise in moral courage by a show of hands. Everyone in this room and online, including the council members and staff, are encouraged to participate. Raise your hand if you are against the indiscriminate and unguided bombing of densely populated urban areas. Keep your hand raised or raise your hand if you are against the targeting of schools, hospitals, bakeries, and other essential civilian infrastructure. Keep your hand raised or raise your hand if you are against bombing a place where geographically and population size very similar to Salt Lake. Raise your hand if you believe the killing of one child every 10 to 15 minutes and one mother every 30 minutes is unacceptable. I see none of you raise your hands. I know you have the rules of decorum about, you can't engage, but I think I made my point. This is not leadership. This is deflection. This is blame shifting. This is negligence, and this is cowardice. So, ceasefire now. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Thank you.
Next will be Hannah Corcutt, followed by Sama Salah, and then Jenna Leader. Hannah is here in person.
Hi, my name is Hannah Korkut, and I'm here again to demand the Salt Lake City Council to call for a condemnation of the genocide in Palestine and a ceasefire resolution. I hope you guys had a very lovely council retreat and were able to talk to each other about how you're listening to all your constituents about the matter at hand and what majority of us are here for. While you have all been gone, many crimes against humanity have occurred in Palestine. I will list some of the updates that occurred from January 23rd to February 6th, or better known as day 109 to day 123 of the Gaza genocide. The IOF ordered the evacuation of Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis, but continued to bomb and shoot at staff, patients, and displaced people, making it dangerous to leave. Nasser Hospital had been under siege and ran out of power, food, water, and medical supplies. The IOF attacks in UNRWA shelter by Khan Yunis, causing mass casualties as fire engulfs buildings and surrounding tents, with many displaced people trapped in the fire. The U.S. suspends the funding of UNRWA as an act of collective punishment after uninvestigated accusations saying 12 UN employees were involved in this October 7th attack on occupied Palestinian land. Israeli protesters physically blocked and protested against humanitarian aid that included food and hygiene items into the Gaza Strip. Israeli settlers and politicians attend a conference that called for the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians to build illegal settlements in Gaza. Israeli forces disguised themselves to assassinate 3 young Palestinian men in a hospital in Jenin, the West Bank, as they were sleeping. 30 Palestinians were found tortured, blindfolded, handcuffed, and executed in a schoolyard in North Gaza. The Israeli defense minister calls for a ground invasion of Rafah, the supposed safe zone that Palestinians were told to flee to. A Palestinian American has been stabbed in Texas yesterday, and the WHO estimates 100,000 Palestinians have been injured, lost, or killed since October 7th. You guys have more power than you believe. You're able to call for a ceasefire. You're able to listen to your constituents here. Ceasefire now.
Next will be Sama Salah, followed by Jenna Leader, and then Layla Muick. Sama, you may now unmute.
Thank you. Thank you to all the brave people that showed out today to speak for a ceasefire in Gaza. I here urge you all to mobilize your sense of human empathy to call for a ceasefire in Gaza. We cannot be complicit in a genocide. The horrors that Israel commits against the Palestinians include, but are not limited to, dropping white phosphorus bombs on civilian populations, bombing aid trucks as well, prohibiting aid trucks as a whole from entering, bombing civilian areas into oblivion, including hospitals, schools, mosques, churches, etc., and shooting at men, women, and children waving white flags. All these crimes that Israel is accusing Hamas of committing have little to no evidence or support. However, the crimes that millions upon millions around the world, including entire nations, are accusing Israel of committing have countless evidence, including evidence documented by their own IOF soldiers. I would like to note that also the oppression and occupation of Palestine and siege on Gaza did not start on October 7th. The siege on Gaza has been going on for well over a decade, and the overall occupation of Palestinian land has been going on for over 70 years. To call for an end to the atrocities being committed against Palestinians is not anti-Semitic. Matter of fact, I cannot think of anything less Jewish or less representative of the Jewish faith than the horrors Israel is subjecting Palestinians to. It is not anti-Semitic to refuse to stand idly by as many, if not all, of the atrocities committed against the Jewish people in Germany are being committed against Palestinians day by day. With that being said, the 100-something people in Gaza who died today had lives, hopes, dreams, and aspirations like you and I. These people who died today would be alive today had there been a ceasefire implemented yesterday. Over 10,000 children have been killed, and since the beginning of this meeting, 6-something children have been killed, and 2 mothers are killed every hour. Would you approve of these crimes were they to happen to your people, to your family, to your loved ones? To not call for a ceasefire is to indicate your approval of these crimes. Stand on the right side of history. Ceasefire now. Thank you.
Next will be Jenna Leader, followed by Layla Muick, and then Weston Nichols. Jenna's here in person.
Hello, my name is Jenna, and I'm a member of District 4 here in Utah, and I'm here, unfortunately, once again to demand you to call for a ceasefire. Over 35,000 innocent Palestinians, civilians, have been murdered by the American and Israeli government. That's thousands more as weeks of your cowardly silence continues. But if that number doesn't horrify you, how about this one? There are over 100,000 Palestinians who have been killed, wounded, or missing since October 7th. 100,000 in 4 months. The ICJ recently determined what anyone with 2 eyes and a brain could have told you, that Israel is likely committing a genocide. This genocide is threatening our national security. The US is already attacking Iraq, Yemen, Syria, and Jordan. We are being dragged into another unnecessary war by our government, and yet again, you sit up there in silence. Shame on you all. What is it going to take for you to see that the American and Israeli government are the real terrorists? The genocidal maniac that we call our president is trying to send $17.6 billion of our tax money to Israel to continue their terrorist agenda. And as another constituent stated, that's enough to end homelessness in America. It's time for Salt Lake to be like Chicago, Seattle, Minneapolis, and so many others and call for a ceasefire. We won't stop until you grow a spine for Palestine. Ceasefire now.
Taylor, 1 second. Just as a reminder about our rules of decorum, we have explained this, and I think it is a good reminder. Disruptions are not conducive to keep safe, as we have learned. There is other points of views, and we appreciate the comments of everyone, those online and in present. We want to make sure that we keep this place safe for everyone. We don't want to make noise. The public comment is recorded, is for everybody to see. I just want to make sure that we keep this place safe, so keep expressions to yourself. Thank you so much.
Next will be Layla Muick, followed by Weston Nichols, and then Kylie Aquina. Layla is here in person.
Hi, Hi, my name is Layla Muich. Councilmember Chris Wharton, 3 weeks ago you told us that your concern is to serve Utah residents. So let's take it from that point of view. Utah residents are experiencing something called vicarious trauma. Just by witnessing the genocide of Palestinians, by witnessing war crimes through our phones, we can experience symptoms of helplessness, anxiety, despair, disassociation, and guilt. Your constituents' tax dollars are funding war crimes without their consent. Some of your constituents have family and friends stuck in Gaza and are fearing or grieving for their lives. Your Muslim, Jewish, and Arab constituents are experiencing a rise in hate crimes due to this conflict. The entire world has experienced a rise in carbon footprint thanks to Israel's airstrikes, which will, of course, affect Utah residents as well. And recent polls say 61% of U.S. supporters support a permanent ceasefire, which includes your constituents. Thousands of Utah residents have signed various petitions calling for ceasefire. When you choose to ignore the genocide that the Palestinians are going through because they aren't your people, your silence and inability to take a stance on this issue in the name of bipartisanship affects your constituents. What will it take to get you to call for ceasefire? Is there a monetary price? Is there a human price? If the answer is nothing, then I hope you will enjoy the next few months where we will gather here every week and protest your inaction until we vote you out. We are just asking for a resolution. Call for ceasefire or we will vote you out. Ceasefire now.
Next will be Weston Nichols, followed by Kylie Aquina, and then Alex Lowe. Weston's here in person.
Today, I address you with a sense of urgency and moral obligation as we confront the ongoing crisis in Palestine. The recent ruling by the ICJ has underscored the severity of this situation as it recognizes South Africa's case against Israel for genocide. The atrocities committed by the IDF in Gaza are beyond comprehension. Innocent Palestinians have been ruthlessly targeted even when waving white flags. Shockingly, Israeli hostages met the same fate by the IDF, demonstrating a blatant disregard for the rules of engagement and basic human decency. The scale of destruction is staggering. Thousands of Palestinian homes have been reduced to rubble. The number of casualties continues to rise, with over 35,000 lives lost and countless others injured or displaced. Healthcare infrastructure, including hospitals and clinics, have been deliberately targeted, leaving the population without access to vital medical care. Furthermore, reports of mass graves and executions of paralyzed individuals in hospitals are chilling reminders of the extent of the atrocities committed by Israeli forces. Palestinians in Gaza struggle to provide even basic food for their starving children, resorting to grinding animal feed just to make bread. The defunding of UNRWA is a travesty of justice. Despite Israel's failure to provide evidence to support their claims, this humanitarian agency is being defunded. Israel's actions have reportedly gone unchecked, perpetuating a cycle of impunity. Baseless allegations of beheaded babies and war rooms under hospitals exemplify the lengths to which misinformation is used to justify unjust actions. These tactics undermine the credibility of Israel's actions and highlight the urgent need for accountability and transparency in the region. The proposed allocations of billions in military aid to Israel is a gross misallocation of resources that only fuels the further violence and suffering. In conclusion, I urge each of you to recognize the urgency of this moment. Our moral compass demands that we stand in solidarity with the oppressed and voice our opposition to injustice. Let us not be remembered as those who remain silent in the face of atrocities, but as champions of peace, justice, and human rights. I urge you to bring a resolution to Council calling for ceasefire and end.
Next will be Kylie Aquina, followed by Alex Lowe, and then Jazz Dumas. Kylie, you may now unmute.
My name is Kylie Aquina. I'm representing Nuanua Collective, and I am a District 5 resident. There is an emergent need to participate in a global responsibility to stop an ethnic cleansing. It's exhausting having to explain to you all why we should care about Palestinians week after week. And if it were you, wouldn't you hope for us to do the same thing for you and your families, to demand the end of cruelty you're experiencing? Over 1,000 of your constituents have signed a petition for a permanent ceasefire, and I'm just asking where you guys are. Where are you? Please pay attention. We don't just come here week after week to get gaslit. These people had their hospitals bombed by Zionists. They are being starved. They are creating GoFundMes to get their families out of Gaza. We have troops. We have our own troops there participating in this genocide. So how many more connections does the council need in order for us to make something? We're frustrated with how long it takes for you to decide when an emergency needs to be addressed. That should have been 5 months ago. We have a responsibility to show the barest minimum of solidarity and do everything in our power to stop this genocide. We urge you to support aid to Gaza. We urge you again to pass a resolution for a ceasefire, a permanent ceasefire immediately. That's all I have for my comment. Thank you.
Next will be Alex Lowe, followed by Jazz Dumas, and then Ivy Dumas. Alex is here in person.
Alex might not be here right now.
Okay, we move on to Jazz Dumas, followed by Ivy Dumas, and then Jackie Buckman. Jazz is here in person.
It's been 4 months since the 2023 Nakba started. 4 months of seeing lifeless babies pulled out from under the rubble. 4 months of seeing the blown off limbs of men, women, and children. 4 months of seeing Palestinians wrapping the organs of their loved ones in old rags just to hold a literal piece of them for a little bit longer. It's been 4 months of listening to the screams and cries of suffering. 4 months of seeing tear-stained faces covered in black dust from the bombs that were dropped on them. 4 months of listening to the sobs and heartbreak of the mothers and fathers as they hold the bodies of their now dead children. 4 months of ethnic cleansing, 4 months of food and water scarcity, 4 months of hospitals being bombed, 4 months of ambulances being bombed, 4 months of seeing Israeli soldiers shoot young, innocent Palestinian men in the street, 4 months of seeing Palestinian men stripped and tortured. I am heartbroken, disgusted, and disappointed with each and every single one of you. I don't know you, but I have learned one thing about all of you in the past 4 months, and that is simply that you do not care. You don't care about the lifeless bodies being pulled out from under the rubble. You don't care about the heartbroken mothers and fathers of Gaza. You don't care about the tear-stained faces covered in bomb dust. You don't care about the lack of food and water. You don't care that the hospitals and ambulances have been bombed. You don't care that Israeli soldiers strip, shoot, and torture Palestinian men. Your silence is violence. Ceasefire now.
Next is Ivy Dumas, followed by Jackie Buckman, and then Serena Siren. Ivy's here in person.
Hello. I'm here in solidarity with the people of Palestine, and I just want to take a moment and thank everyone behind me and online for showing up tonight. And even if it feels like we're begging, please keep showing up. The people need it. Councilman, I'm sure that when you took your oath to office, you didn't know you'd be facing a genocide. However, it is happening, and your silence is violent. Black and brown lives deserve the same urgency white lives get. Every hour, there is more blood on your hands. You are currently being tested on your humanity as people, not as councilmen. Telling us a resolution is being worked on is not good enough. I want you to think of your legacy, your personal life, and what that looks like. Will you be on the right side of history, or will you be lost on the list of names complicit with this genocide that will be? The time is now. Ceasefire now.
Next will be Jackie Buckman, followed by Serena Siren, and then Cynthia Dumas. Jackie, you may now unmute.
Hello, Council. My name is Jackie. I have lived in Utah all my life, and I currently live in District 7. I am here along with my fellow constituents to urge and demand that you, our council, join other major cities around the nation to pass a resolution calling for an immediate ceasefire in occupied Palestine. For 122 days, we have watched the carnage of a genocide being carried out in real time. The Palestinian people have been enduring this occupation and aggression for almost a century. I'm sure you have been presented the deplorable statistics that rise every minute. I'm hoping to appeal to your hearts tonight. A cold and rainy evening in Salt Lake City. The people of Gaza, who are nearly entirely houseless and displaced now because of Israeli aggression, are subjected to the cold and rain without any reprieve. Children shivering and dying. I can't decide if that fate is better or worse than being blown apart or crushed under the concrete of broken buildings. What I cannot reconcile is our role in this travesty. As Utahns and citizens of the US, our tax dollars fund this terrorism every day. If you're paying attention, you will see that the overwhelming majority of the global population is on the right side of history here. People showing out in thousands and millions to call for this ceasefire. The only question that remains is, does this council have the moral courage to do the same? Ceasefire now. Thank you.
Next will be Serena Siren, followed by Cynthia Dumas, and then Larry Dean. Serena, you may now unmute.
Hi, my name is Serena Hammond, and I am in District 1, and I am calling to ask the council to call for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. I really would like to echo everything that each pro-Palestinian activist has touched on tonight. 35,000 killed, 13,000 being children. I find it quite hypocritical that in this same meeting where a resolution is passed to honor the African American history, and to me, you guys obviously have not learned anything from that, because how are you able to recognize their oppression now, but you cannot recognize the oppression of the Palestinian people? There is a Palestinian American doctor who, in just one airstrike, lost 3 generations of his family. There's a gentleman who stated that before October 7th, there was no violence that Israel inflicted on Gaza. And I would like to share a report from the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs back in 2008. And they said, and I quote, "If Gazans lacked electricity for as many as 16 hours each day, if Gazans received water only once a week for a few hours, and 80% of the water was unfit for human consumption, if 1 of every 2 Gazans was unemployed and food insecure, if 20% of essential drugs in Gaza were at 0 level, and more than 20% of patients suffering from cancer, heart disease, and other severe conditions were unable to get permits for medical care abroad, if Gazans clung to life by the thinnest of threads, it traced back ultimately to the Israeli siege. To judge by the human rights balance sheet at the end of 2008, and setting aside that the ceasefire was broken by Israel, didn't Palestinians have as much stronger case than Israel for resorting to armed self-defense?
Thank you.
Ceasefire now."
Next will be Cynthia Dumas, followed by Larry Dean, and then Sahar Al-Shinbaki. Cynthia is here in person.
Thank you. I am a citizen of humanity, as we all are. Blood runs through our veins, your heart is beating, and yet some people tonight don't have the pleasure of going home and hugging their loved ones, of having a heartbeat, of the experience of being alive. Now, as Dan Dugan mentioned earlier, every day we are writing history. History is being written right now, and there is a cause and the effect to writing that history. The cause is the genocide that is of Palestine, the wipeout, the ethnic cleansing of a whole people, of a religion, of a culture. The effect, though, as many as are being killed, this is uniting humanity. This is bringing us closer and closer together. This genocide of Palestine has brought out the truth that our government cannot be trusted because we are just shuffling papers. That's all you guys are doing, and I know you're doing your best, and I know that you are human, but stand up and be for the humanity of people. Another beautiful effect that has been brought up because of the genocide of Palestine is the truth that the United States of America is the United States of genocide, of Zionism. We hide behind the lies. Lastly, this beautiful country, I am an immigrant from Mexico. I was born with the hope of coming to America and being free. Now that I am here and I am a citizen, I realize we are not free. We are all oppressed by rules, by regulations that are being passed by higher powers. And I know that it's out of your control because I am in government as well. But do your job, do better. You can do better.
Time.
Thank you. Just a reminder about the rules of decorum. Let's keep this place safe for everyone. Thank you.
Next will be Larry Dean, followed by Sahar Al-Shambaki, and then Anastina Sims. Larry, you may now unmute.
My name's Larry Dean. I'm a resident of District 5. I have a question and observation to make regarding the impact studies that were included in the contract between UEPA Board and Salt Lake City, which expired on December 31st, 2023. My question is, why has the city allowed UEPA Board to stonewall the impact studies and instead rely on a 10-year-old Northwest Quadrant master plan? Surely we can all agree that the issues have changed over the last 10 years, and yet the UEPA Board has been allowed to circumvent the studies called for in the contract. Could it be that the city and UEPA are in no hurry for the results of the impact study to become public knowledge? The results will no doubt confirm the polluting nature of the inland port on the west side neighborhoods, all of Salt Lake, and the Wasatch Front. Hardly a day goes by without some word from the city on how it's improving the lives of West Side residents. Trails and parks are great, but given the choice of parks or clean air, I'm pretty sure we would all choose clean air. Our mayor and city council have claimed to be champions for clean air, but actions speak louder than words. About 6 years ago, I, along with a dozen or so residents, met with the city council. We tried to convince the council to delay the payment of $27 million to the developers of the Northwest Quadrant. The council's reasoning was that the city had a contractual obligation to pay. 6 years later, it seems that the contracts with the city are now of little to no value. Salt Lake residents deserve better.
Next will be Sahar Al-Shambaki, followed by Anastina Sims, and then Josie Khan. Sahar is here in person.
Good evening, everyone. 4 months of a live-streamed genocide, and you are still silent. Your silence is very loud, it's very violent, and it's very dehumanizing. Earlier, when I was watching you passing those resolutions like this, and then when it comes to passing a resolution to end the genocide of children, you are still silent. I have never been dehumanized as I have by your silence. It's outrageous. I am outraged, as a Palestinian, and I'm outraged as a citizen of the world who cares for all human life and care for justice. And let me be clear, when we ask for a ceasefire, we're not asking you to magically make the bombs stop dropping. We're not asking you to lift the siege on Gaza. We're not asking you to stop the illegal settlement expansions. We're not asking you to end the occupation. And God forbid we ask you to free Palestine. No. All we ask is that you show that you care for human life and that you condemn killing children and that Palestinian children's lives are not disposable. That's all we ask. And you were elected by the people to be the voice for this community. Yet it seems that you forgot the very people who put you in these seats. You forgot that your true duty is to serve the interests of the people, not the political games of the powerful. Chris, I don't know how you feel about the ICJ. Last time you mentioned that you have worked with ICJ and you know what they do and what they stand for justice. And yet you remain silent.
Thank you.
Next will be Anastina Sims, followed by Josie Khan, and then Bina Mon. Anastina, you may now unmute.
Hello, my full legal name is Anastina Sims. My chosen name is Aspen. I am here and will continue to be here until the City Council calls for a permanent and immediate ceasefire. The members of City Council have no right to call themselves civil servants while our taxes are funding genocide. I'm disgusted that you would allow this to happen while our communities are suffering. Our people remain unhoused in the cold and our taxes are sent to war criminals to murder children. If you continue to allow this to happen, if you continue to be complicit, you are just as at fault as the people who are dropping those bombs on schools and hospitals. You are just as guilty as the IDF soldiers sniping children for fun. You are just as guilty as the army that continues to corral any remaining Palestinian people to the furthest corner of Gaza so that they can be slaughtered. Just as guilty as the tanks that are running over displaced camps, and just as guilty as the soldiers digging up graves to harvest organs of the slaughtered. You must use your voice to say something, to do something. Please wash the blood off of your hands and defund war criminals, defund genocide, and call for an immediate and permanent ceasefire. Thank you.
Next will be Josie Khan, followed by Bina Manon, and then Kober Bingham.
Taylor.
Josie, you may now unmute.
Hi, everybody. My name is Josie, and I am from District 4. I'm a graduate student at the University of Utah, and I am a scientist and I am an educator. This time of year in schools all across the country and all across the world, students and teachers are celebrating the 100th day of school. Because when you're a kid, 100 days feels like an eternity, and 100 days of school is the longest thing you've ever done. In Palestine, it has been 100 days of genocide, and I would argue that that is truly an eternity. It has been over 120 days of no reprieve, and these conditions have only been getting worse. 13,000 children have been murdered, and over 20,000, 30,000, an unnamed amount of people in total have been murdered. There are no schools left in Gaza, no universities. There is no education of any kind. We are asking that you represent the 1,000 plus of us, of your constituents, who have called for a ceasefire resolution and show that our city, Salt Lake City, denounces Israel's genocide on Palestine, and that we as constituents can count on you for both global and local matters of this utmost importance, including ensuring the safety of Palestinians and others in Salt Lake City. All of these issues are interconnected. Thank you.
Taylor, we're going to take a 5-minute break. Some of us need to use the restroom, stretch our legs. We have in the council, if you also want to take a break or go to the restroom, the restaurant's right outside the room over here. So let's come back to the meeting at 9:10. Thank you.
Bingham, and then Joseph Sears. Bina, you may now unmute.
Hi, my name is Dina Manan. I'm a resident in District 5, and I wanted to take a few minutes to share with you my thoughts for demanding a ceasefire. Tonight, we have heard many statistics and details about the atrocities being committed in Palestine. We are over 120 days into the conflict, which has turned into a full-blown attack on the people of Palestine, and specifically the people of Gaza. That said, to add to the urgency, I'm asking for the Salt Lake City Council to pass a resolution demanding a ceasefire in Palestine and to be on the right side of history and not sit silently as we watch a genocide unfold. I ask the council to support protections for Palestinians, Arabs, Muslims, and Jewish residents of Salt Lake City and to support and ask allowance for humanitarian aid to enter Gaza. I'm hoping our words resonate with you and you take action to do the right thing. Demanding a ceasefire is the least we can do. And with that, a safe return of the hostages and no more lives lost in this brutal war. Thank you.
Next will be Cover Bingham, followed by Joseph Sears, and then Rita Dosanjh. Cover is here in person.
Bingham. I live in District 5. Tonight I'd like to focus on the comments made by Chris Wharton during this session last week. Chris, you said two main points that I want to comment on. First, you said, quote, I've heard also from the Jewish constituents who have friends and family members who have been impacted by the violence of October 7th, and I don't bring that up as a both sidesism, but because there are individuals in our own neighborhoods who are impacted on both sides and who are experiencing the generational trauma that was discussed tonight and is bilateral and it exists for multiple communities. I find that astounding because it sounds like you're suggesting that you can't speak up or do anything whatsoever on war crimes and mass slaughter of innocent Palestinian civilians because somehow your Jewish constituents require that of you. Your Jewish constituency requires mass murder? That sounds like an incredibly anti-Semitic statement. It also shows that in the hours that you've sat here listening to us on the Palestinian cause, you haven't heard us at all. In fact, it sounds like you're quite ignorant about the Palestinian struggle in its entirety. So let me help you out and make it very simple and clear. There is no justification for war crimes and mass murder and slaughter of 30,000 innocent civilians, okay? Do you get that? No constituency possibly can require your inaction on that. The second thing you said was, I am someone that came from an activist background and served on the Human Rights Commission and studied international criminal law at the ICJ, the ICTYN, and the ICC. Wow, so you studied at the ICJ, yet you still have no problem sitting right in that chair and justifying criminal punishment, an internationally recognized war crime to the people you supposedly represent by effectively saying, you know, I'd love to help you out, but my Jewish constituency requires that of me. Article 33 of the Fourth Geneva Convention states, no protected person may be punished for an offense he or she is not personally committed. Collective penalties and likewise all measurements of intimidation or of terrorism are prohibited. You studied at the ICJ and you sat right there and you justified an inaction of war crimes. Indeed, you said that that wasn't a both sidesism. In fact, that's not even a one sidesism. That's coward.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next will be Joseph Sears, followed by Rita Dosanjh, and then Lila Murphy. Joseph is here in person.
Hello. My name is Joseph Sears. 35,000 Palestinians have been killed by Israel just since October 7th, and 13,000 of them have been children. That is almost 40% victims of genocide as children. Israel's actions do not in any way represent Judaism. This has nothing to do with religion and everything to do with basic human rights that can never be ignored. Israel's ongoing war crime of genocide is being funded by our tax dollars. Salt Lake City needs to stand against genocide. Not voting on a resolution and ignoring our overwhelming voice is not wise. Our petition demanding a ceasefire has been signed by over 1,000 Salt Lake City residents. 66% of all voters support a ceasefire. A ceasefire has a clear definition and has not been politicized. We must be strongly anti-genocide. Staying silent politically aligns with cruelty, barbarism, and human regression. You are our voice. We call you to bring a resolution to the council that calls for a ceasefire and strong anti-genocide language. Humanity is the uniting factor for all of us in this issue, and it unites you to us as well, whether you like it or not. All of us are born with a conscience, and if you do not speak up for this most basic justice of a ceasefire, your subconscious will suffer. Pay attention to what thoughts arise before you fall asleep and make choices that you will not regret when you have the privilege of growing old. Thank you. Ceasefire now.
Next will be Rita Dosanjh, followed by Lila Murphy, and then Danny Erickson. Rita, you may now unmute.
Hi, my name is Nimrita Dosanjh. That's with a J. I live in District 3, and I am a student at the University of Utah studying sociology, political science, and psychology. Chris, a few weeks ago, you responded to our cries for a ceasefire by saying that your Jewish constituents don't want a ceasefire. I want to correct your vocabulary. Those are Zionists, not Jewish people. While the two may overlap in an apartheid state that relies on propaganda similar to the United States, not every Jewish person believes that they need to ethnically cleanse an entire group of people to live in protection. You have the power to do good in the world. To me and my peers, it seems you've forgotten how to be a voice for the people. We're here because we care. All I can wonder is, do you distrust our empathy? Do you distrust the citizens you represent? I want to remind you that every empire has fallen, and I mean no offense, but city council members won't be in the history books for the weeks of deliberation about saving innocent lives. You'll have to make the choice. I will never understand why you have to deliberate ending the killings and bombings of anyone. I don't want you to be complicit in something that only the 1% benefit from. I don't want that for myself. I want to be part of a generation of humans who genuinely believe in equality. I want a free world that doesn't exchange their humanity for money. The world is burning already, and the mistake that capitalists and Zionists made was monetizing technology. We, the working class, are connected now more than ever. While the propaganda lobbyists feed us may work on undereducated communities, the Western Empire has forgotten the power of community. The power of the people will always prevail. That's simply a warning, not a threat. Now go on and work on a permanent ceasefire resolution. It's now in exchange for your moral conscience. And I will also ask you all, the council, to also implore the same decorum that we have been showing, and to maybe not look at your phones as much. Your body language is very telling, and it honestly makes me feel disrespected.
Next will be Layla Murphy, followed by Danny Erickson, and then Charlie Friedman. Layla, you may now unmute.
Hello, my name is Layla, and I'm imploring you all to vote on a ceasefire resolution. I'm Palestinian American myself. My family is from Bethlehem. While it's amazing to see so much of my local community standing up for what is right, it's disappointing that it has been such a struggle to get a resolution. These people that I'm hearing speaking at this meeting make me hopeful, if that's even possible, after watching genocide take place for 122 plus days, including over 30,000 killed, at least 12,000 whom are children, and more than 8,000 under the rubble. This is just the last 122 days, but let's be clear, there was absolutely killing before October 7th. Genocide is not just a word I'm using lightly. On January 26, the International Court of Law also found genocide was plausible and ordered Israel to take measures to prevent genocide, which continues to be ignored. This council says they want people to feel safe, and a ceasefire resolution would help make me and my family feel safer and heard when we aren't feeling that way right now. Thank you. Ceasefire now.
Next will be Danny Erickson, followed by Charlie Friedman, and then Chen Pendleton. Danny, you may now unmute.
Hi, my name is Danny. The bills you have passed recently have been in the best interest of no one in our community but yourself and your own biases and prejudices/opinions, which makes me wonder why you can pass bills in your community that your community begs you not to pass, but have already been I'm very anxious about this. Have been barely able to acknowledge the people in your community who have been begging you to listen, to care about thousands of people who are dying in Palestine. Our issues here in Utah are no more important than their issues, and who are you to act as if we matter more than other human lives? Who is anyone to act like we are more important than Palestinians, and as if your comfort and our issues matter more than theirs? Your job is to listen, and you are failing. I do not consent to my tax dollars being used to commit a genocide, and will no longer support any of you who are claiming to care about your community and claim to be our representatives, yet be cowards when we beg you to listen and care about other human beings. Who are you to play God? These are human beings with dreams and families just like your own, and if you can't recognize that and look past your own biases and and propaganda, then I think you all chose the wrong job. This is not about left or right. This is an attack against Palestinians and humans and humanity as a whole. This is about Palestinians' right to live and not be murdered, just as you or my own right. Palestinians have the right to live and not just survive, but to thrive and live long, fulfilling lives just like you and me. I don't know about you, but I don't think that people's rights everywhere to live and not die is conditional or contingent on where they are in the world or what race they are. We should not have to be here begging you to care. We should not have to ask you to care. Rafah is being bombed right now. The supposed safe zone is being attacked, and there is nowhere else in Palestine to go. There has never been a more urgent time to act. You have no excuses, no justifications for being quiet. You and most of the government have blood on your hands the longer you don't act. You have every single reason to act, yet you all act like you are powerless in this when you hold so much responsibility in your hands. Shame on all of you for your silence and complicity. We will not stop coming and demanding you pass a resolution until you do, or we organize to remove you if you fail to do so. Thank you.
Next will be Charlie Friedman, followed by Jen Pendleton, and then Jakey Ciolo. Charlie is here in person.
I believe Jake is not here. Charlie, sorry.
Moving on to Jen Pendleton, followed by Jakey Ciolo, and then William Butterfield. Jen should be here in person.
Jen, I believe she's not online. Oh, in person, she's not. Definitely not.
Jakey Ciolo, followed by William Butterfield, and then Natalie Diltz. Jakey, you may now unmute.
Hi, this is Jakey in District 4. When Palestine is free and we see an end to the apartheid state, I'm sure this council will pass a resolution quickly acknowledging the resistance of Palestinians, just like you celebrated the resistance of Black communities today. I understand how busy you might be, but there are thousands of families being slaughtered. How long does it take to draft a resolution? How long does it take to make a personal statement? It has been 4 months since the 2023 Nakba. It's been 4 months since this council pledged solemn solidarity with Israel. It has been 4 months and we've seen in Islamophobia rising in this country. It's been 4 months, and yet we've only seen this council make statements against anti-Semitism and not Islamophobia. Does this council represent all or just white bodies? Does this council support genocide or not? Anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism. Recently, I was asked why we are demanding a ceasefire resolution from the city council. They told me, of course, the council supports a ceasefire. They are Democrats. How do we know that this council denounces genocide without a ceasefire resolution passed? You cannot assume that we know where you stand. As your constituents, we need transparency and should, without a doubt, know where you stand on genocide. Last time I was here, I condemned genocide and occupation, and 2 weeks later have gone by, and I still condemn genocide and occupation. A ceasefire resolution is the bare minimum this council can do. And when you vote and when you pass a ceasefire resolution, we will not be congratulating you for your lack of action. I do know from our meetings with you the last few weeks that you are scared to use the word ceasefire because it's been politicized. But I really want you to think why. Sit with why you don't want to use that language. What is the real reason as to why you are so afraid to say the word ceasefire? Ceasefire now.
Next will be William Butterfield, followed by Natalie Diltz, and then Amanda Rabideau. William is here in person.
Hi, I'm Liam Butterfield. I live in District 5. I'm a proud member of Armed Queers Salt Lake City and Metro DU. I'd like to address some of the misunderstandings I think the council has about our crowd. On January 16th, several of you invited those of us demanding a call for a ceasefire to speak with you personally. There's a reason many of us haven't bothered to take you up on this. There's no moral ambiguity or fine nuance to the systematic slaughter of Palestinians. You don't seem to realize that none of us could care less for your sentiments. As alleged public servants, it is only your actions that concern us. No dissenting opinion is deserving of respect or merit. I recall Chris Wharton citing his Jewish friend to justify his passive approach to this matter. If you truly want to go that route, I myself am ethnically Jewish. I'm here to say there is no place for identity politics. This is no place for subjectivism. This genocide is not a blood feud between two religions or ethnicities. It is an imperialist project bolstered by Western powers struggling to dominate over the Middle East by any pretext necessary. We could be agitating for much more, and yet the council flinches at the idea of doing the bare minimum. Call for a ceasefire.
Next will be Natalie Diltz, followed by Amanda Rapido, and then Meg Griffs. Natalie's here in person.
Hello, my name is Natalie, and I'm a resident of District 4. I'm speaking to the council today, asking you all to pass a resolution for an immediate ceasefire. The ICJ has issued a preliminary ruling that Israel is likely committing genocide against the people of Palestine. However, we cannot wait for the legal process to proclaim what we already understand to be true. The list of atrocities is long. Aid restrictions, targeting journalists, bombing hospitals, attacking civilians, starving refugees, and collective punishment are only some of the examples of what is currently happening in Gaza. There have been over 35,000 deaths, of which 13,000 were children. This does not even begin to cover the impact of mental and physical trauma, as this genocide is leaving many who survived disabled. Many cities across the US and world have called for a ceasefire. You claim that inaction is not picking sides, but how do you protect anyone through silence? The violence against Muslims and Jews has escalated during the genocide. How is it allowing to continue helping anyone? Inaction will not make your constituents feel safer. The Palestinians and Jews of Salt Lake deserve our protection. Over 1,000 of your constituents have signed the petition urging this council to call for a ceasefire across party lines. Call for a ceasefire, call for an end to the genocide, call for an end to the Israeli bombardment of Gaza and Palestine. The US and all of its citizens are complicit, as our tax dollars are funding this genocide. Utahns' tax dollars are funding this genocide. We must act now, and you are our voice. Ceasefire now. Thank you.
Next will be Amanda Rabideau, followed by Meg Griffs, and then Olivia Marin. Amanda, you may now unmute.
Thank you so much. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, thank you. Yes, my name is Amanda Rabideau. I'm a longtime resident, and like my peers, I am calling for an immediate and permanent ceasefire. During the last meeting, Chris said that his duty was to us and that other city councils across the US were not going to advocate for us. So I just wanted to address this. So as of now, over 35,000 people have been murdered in Gaza, and the violence is spreading. After the last meeting, an American teenager was killed in the West Bank. He was attacked by the IOF, police, and settlers. He was shot in the head while attending a barbecue. Instead of letting his family call for an ambulance, the Israelis detained him and he died from his gunshot wounds. Also 2 weeks ago, at a pro-Palestine rally at Columbia University, protesters were attacked with skunk water. If you're unaware, skunk water is an IOF weapon used for crowd control. It is routinely sprayed on Palestinians in the occupied territories. Side effects include burning, nausea, vomiting, and can cause respiratory distress. It is also difficult to wash off. The folks who sprayed the skunk water were identified as former IOF soldiers. Just think about it. There are now soldiers of foreign countries using chemical weapons on Americans on US soil. If that's not terrorism, I don't know what is. So far, no one has been disciplined for either of the crimes in the West Bank or at Columbia University. So while these events did not happen in Salt Lake City, the point remains that they easily could. That could have been a Utahn shot and killed in the West Bank. That skunk water could have just as easily been sprayed on us here. Your inaction has consequences. The Zionist aggressors will continue to feel emboldened, and it puts us all at great risk. For the love, call for a ceasefire now. Thank you.
Next will be Meg Griffs, followed by Olivia Marin, and then Patrick Deperit-Guillaume. Meg, you may now unmute.
Members of the council, my name is Meg Griffiths. As a resident of this city, deeply invested in justice and humanity, I come before you today with a plea for solidarity and action. The Palestinian struggle for liberation resonates with millions worldwide, including myself. The statistics of the present genocide are damning. 35,000 Palestinians senselessly killed by Israeli attacks, nearly 2 million people displaced, facing violence, starvation, and negligible aid. These aren't just numbers, they're lives. Mothers, fathers, sons, daughters, our human family, violently taken or continuously and forever traumatized. I implore you to truly see these people, hear their cries for our protection and intervention. Today, I stand not just as a constituent, but as a voice for compassion and liberation. I demand a ceasefire resolution, sending a clear message. We value human life above all. Demanding an immediate and permanent ceasefire and humanitarian aid is our duty. Stop funding genocide. Stop the killing. I understand courage and resolve are needed in making this resolution, but I am deeply frustrated by the Council's inaction thus far. Don't shy away from your responsibility to stand on the side of justice and human rights. You've remained silent on Palestinian oppression for too long. We will keep showing up until real action is taken. Represent everyone who has shown up week after week. Follow our lead. Do the right thing. Join other cities refusing to turn a blind eye to the suffering. Pass a ceasefire resolution. Free Palestine. Ceasefire now. Thank you.
Next will be Olivia Marin, followed by Patrick Deperit Guillaume, and then Joseph Martinez. Olivia, you may now unmute.
Hi there, my name is Olivia Marin. I'm a 21-year-old student at SLIC. I'm an entrepreneur. I serve clients in the Salt Lake City area, and I am tuning in tonight to address the council, and not only the council, but also Erin Mendenhall. I am extremely embarrassed to have been coming back week after week. I not only spoke tonight at your council, I also spoke at the Midvale City Council. I hope you know that multiple petitions have been made in Salt Lake and the surrounding areas. Like another constituent said earlier, the people are rising. You know, we have had y'all in power for too long. I know some of you are on the council newly, and now is your time to be on the right side of history. It's just very, very embarrassing to know that not only are there such disparities going on here locally that have been not only getting worse under Erin Mendenhall, but have also been ignored by her. She is hoping to have this space become the manufacturing hub for weapons, and also wants this to be the entertainment hub for like freaking baseball and basketball and stuff. And I just find that ridiculous. You know, where is your humanity, people? You were on your phone tonight multiple times, Erin. Shame on you. Victoria and Alejandro whispering and scoffing. Why is snapping and being supportive hateful when you aren't even following your own rules of decorum? I am sick and tired of the repetitiveness and just having to like lecture you guys on this when I'm sure you are well aware of what's going on. Stand up for the right side of history, for the people, and ceasefire.
Thank you.
Next will be Patrick Deperit Guillaume, followed by Josefa Martinez, and then Katie Swade. Patrick's here in person.
Is Patrick in person? Okay, just a brief reminder about the rules of decorum. Thank you, Taylor.
Next will be Josefa Martinez, followed by Katie Swade, and then Gregorio Bajora Ocampo. Josefa, you may now unmute.
I just want to say I wish I could be there, because in my culture, when someone's talking to you or vice versa, you make eye contact and pay attention, so that way that person feels like you're listening. First and foremost, I want to say, when people are occupied, resistance is justified. In the words of rap legend and the iconic Tupac Shakur, he spoke the words thug life. Thug life is actually an acronym. The hate you give little children F's everyone. What precedent are we putting forth for our future generations? I have been asked over and over again to condemn. My question to you is, do you condone this? Would you condemn the Warsaw Ghetto uprising? How is it surprising to hear that the same people you are asking to have empathy for 1,200 Israelis are having empathy for over 35,000 Palestinians that have been murdered, herded into Rafah, and are being bombed as we speak right now? People are eating grass to survive. The hate you give is continuing this genocide. The hate you give is continuing to be silent. The hate you give is continuing to sit there in this dystopian setting as we plead for the end of the killing of Palestinians and you proceed on with ordinances that change nothing and do nothing for the people of Salt Lake. Do better. As Tupac Shakur said, they have money for war but can't feed the poor. We will vote you out. History will remember your names. Shame on all of you for your complicity and your silence. Shame. Cease fire now. Free Palestine.
Next will be Katie Swade, followed by Gregorio Barahona Ocampo, and then Natalia Linares. Katie, you may now unmute.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Katie, and my partner Melanie and I live here in Salt Lake. We are both on this call. We are both active Salt Lake community members and want to take the time to add our voices to the comments here. We strongly encourage Salt Lake to do more for the people of Gaza, to show up and to be on the right side of history. To pass a resolution condemning Israel's genocide and all the lives lost in Gaza. How many lives is it going to take for our city to do the right thing? How many families need to be destroyed? Other cities have made public statements to support a ceasefire. Why hasn't Salt Lake? We must, as a city, make a public effort to support the allowance of humanitarian aid to enter Gaza and to call for a permanent ceasefire now. Also, very importantly, we fear for our fellow Salt Lake Palestinians, Arab, Muslim, and Jewish residents, and strongly encourage the council to put protections in place for these individuals. We need to do better, and we need the city to do more. Thank you for your time.
Next is Gregorio Barahona Ocampo, followed by Natalia Linares, and then Heather Cox. Gregorio is here in person.
Taylor. Is Gregorio here? Gregorio is not. Taylor.
Natalia Linares, followed by Heather Cox, and then Luna Banuri. Natalia, you may now unmute.
Gregorio, are you there?
Oh, good evening. This is Natalia Linares. Thank you. I'm a resident of Salt Lake City. I just put my two kids to bed who are 2 and 4 years old. Decided to call in because this is atrocious to hear you referencing decorum when your body language, your silence is frankly homicidal, given what is going on, given the amount of other cities around the United States that have spoken up, that have taken the lead on this, and we are way behind. As a person of color, as the daughter of immigrants, shame on those of you who are new on the council, who played that card to get elected and are silent at this point. We are calling on you to have some courage, especially those of you that are new on the council, to listen to your constituents, to make this small symbolic gesture on behalf of us here in Salt Lake to demand a ceasefire. Thank you. We will, if you cannot respect our demands here, this is a very, this isn't a threat, but we will have to go to you if you cannot listen to us. Good night.
Next will be Heather Cox, followed by Luna Banuri. Heather, you may now unmute.
Hello, my name is Heather Cox. I'm a resident in District 7. We've heard from, so many people tonight who clearly care very deeply about our fellow humans overseas and right here in Salt Lake City. I really believe that the people who have shown up tonight on a Tuesday evening after a very long day at work, I know it was for me and probably has been for all of you, simply want to see peace and an end to the mass murder and devastation in Gaza over the past several months. Like many of our neighbors, I believe we have an obligation to fight both anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. Many people are understandably careful not to be perceived as anti-Semitic, but unfortunately, very few people are afraid to be seen as anti-Arab, and that has become very apparent to me over the last several months. We need to recognize the real injustice and imbalance of power that's going on here. And innocent civilians in Gaza have been characterized as animals and murdered as the world watches. We need to recognize that Salt Lake's one-sided approach to this ongoing conflict has only worsened conditions for our Arab and Muslim neighbors. I do not identify as either, but I can see it happening. When we look back on these atrocities in history one day, I really hope that we're proud of the action that Salt Lake City has taken to address this ongoing violence and hostility towards people right here in Salt Lake and also abroad in Palestine. So I believe supporting a ceasefire is the only ethical way for us to align our city with the right side of history and help prevent further needless suffering in Gaza. Let's not pretend that we can't see what's happening. I know we can, and so we must support a ceasefire now. Thank you.
And next will be Luna Benuri. Luna, you may now unmute.
Good evening. My name has been announced. I do come here in my personal capacity. I have worked with the current administration and the administration before in many volunteer capacities. I have been bringing issues to the community. I have also spoken about the city and all of yours work to our community, explaining how everything works. I'm here to say that you've heard everything about this genocide, and you have heard every single argument that it is possible. I want to say we are all here to come to the table to discuss and find ways to help you pass this resolution. I have never seen this kind of movement, this kind of togetherness in the community about any single issue. And some of us need to now take steps, and I want to volunteer helping do that. I know that each one of you wants to help. I believe in you. I believe that deep inside there is a desire to do right by your constituents. Let's figure out a way to do this together as fast as possible before more lives are lost. Thank you.
That was the final registered commenter.
Thank you. This meeting is adjourned.